Palisade peach harvest. The peaches have just been phenomenal.
Oh man!
And I made a peach melomel last year that took best of show at Mead Free or Die.
Nice.
And yeah. And see, I also I just got a gold with it at Texas Mead Cup as well.
Oh, congratulations!
So, but it was so good, it's all gone. So I've got to make more.
Yeah, I've tried to hold
problems, you know.
Yeah, I've tried to hold back bottles from every batch. It doesn't always work out. I have very persuasive friends.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I have friends that I like a lot. That's how I like to look at it. No, I really like you. That's why we're opening this.
Yeah. Well, I got friends that'll come over and they're like, Vicky, if you'll give me those last 2 bottles of your Heather Mead that I'm totally in love with, I'll give you these two gallons of honey, and I'd be like, ooh, boy.
Yep, done.
Yeah.
Right?
So, yeah.
Make the habit pay for itself.
Maybe if it was Heather honey, I'd make that deal.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'd keep the Heather Mead.
Well, I mean, the Heather Mead was made with Heather tips, believe it or not. I didn't, because I couldn't afford. Who can afford Heather honey? I mean, shoot, it's like ridiculously expensive. So I was at the time I was working at a Renaissance festival at the Carolina Renaissance Festival, and they had an herbalist there who had a really good selection of stuff, and she had Heather tips, and I asked her if she could get quantity, and she said, "Well, how much do you want?" And I said, "Well, I don't know, a couple pounds." So I got like half a garbage bag of Heather tips, and I just did it. I just did it like a methglin. I just bagged those puppies and I hung them and tasted it, every couple of days until I got where I wanted it to be, and then I pulled them out and racked it. But
I found the Heather tips actually work really well with rose hips as well.
Yes.
I did a rose hip and Heather tip mead, and wow, fabulous.
That would be really good. I loved it came out and it had this like flowery, piney thing going on that was really interesting. It was different, and it was definitely something that not everybody would like personally, but it was it came out well, well balanced, but the flavor profile was fascinating on the thing. I didn't know what to expect, and I really liked what I got.
Yeah.
Always happy to
I'm finding I'm finding as I move along in my mead making that I'm making more and more polarizing meads. I think this last year has been the worst for them. I've got meads that people just either absolutely love or they just can't stand to take another sip of. And like, well, I guess I'm pushing the envelope. Not everybody's making blueberry mead. So.
Yeah, I've been kind of in that space now. I've made so many of the like standard melomels and methglins that I made for so many years because I liked them. I mean, it was just stuff I liked to drink. But now I'm getting kind of bored with it, and I want to do something different. So I'm looking through the cupboard and going, what can I make mead out of here? So I'm just kind of,
what can I ferment?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, I've got these honeys. What can I combine with these honeys to make something interesting that I want to drink? So I'm playing around. I've been thinking for a while about maybe doing a saffron one. I picked up some saffron and, and can't decide if I want to go there or not. Saffron's pretty pricey. If I screw it up, I'm going to feel really awful. I'm cleaning out stuff from the cupboard that, like teas that I've bought that are combinations of all kinds of interesting stuff. And I'm going to make mead out of them and see what happens. I don't know what's going to happen. We'll find out.
Yeah.
I've got spruce tips I've been sitting on.
That's one of the beauties of mead making.
Yeah, it is.
Honey, water, and yeast is your blank canvas, and you can either put your blank canvas up, and that's art, or you can throw some paint on your blank canvas.
Yeah. I tell when reporters call... Yeah, we really do. When reporters call, they're like, well, is it like red wine or white wine? And I'm like, it's like nothing you've ever tasted before. It can be anything and everything and almost nothing. It has no limits. There's no book We threw out the book. We have no box. To heck with that. We just, whatever our imagination can do, we can create. And that's what's so awesome about mead. We don't have the rules that all of the other alcoholic beverages have.
Absolutely. And it also makes mead makers some of the coolest people on the planet.
Well, yeah, of course it does. Bobby Slance says he did a sweetened
we don't think
Chinese.
Outside of the box and
What box? We don't have no stinking box.
yeah.
Bobby Slance is saying that he made a sweetened Chinese olive mead.
Wow.
Oh, he's done some interesting. Have you had his seaweed mead?
Sure
Olive blossom.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, but have you had his seaweed mead? By all accounts, it's to die for. Yeah, he had it at the Mazer Cup this year, and I wasn't fast enough to get any, but I'm going to try next year if there's any there. But, yeah, Bobby does some really interesting stuff. Seaweed mead, and apparently it is really good.
Obviously not from seaweed pollen and underwater bees. But that was what my head went to when you started talking about
little bees sort of swimming with their little wings.
Little seaweed pollen sacs. And, yeah.
No, he's done some really interesting and unique stuff. It's he's not afraid to throw away the box.
Nice.
Never mind going outside the box. He throws
I'm very
it
much
away.
looking forward to. I'm very much looking forward to Mazer Cup this year. It's just gets better every year.
Oh, it's going to be.
We just get such an incredible group of mead makers together. It's so much fun, and the mead is just so fabulous.
It really is. And what with Carvin stepping up for the party block, it's pretty much going to be a,
Yeah.
party all the time, except when Carvin kicks us out.
Yeah, I mean, I live 30 minutes away from the hotel, and I'm like, should I pick up one of Carvin's rooms?
Yeah, you need to get trust me, it'd be better if you get a room. It's a lot easier.
It's much safer.
Yeah, I usually get a room for like 2 nights.
That's all you need.
Yeah. I'll get a room for 2 nights, and then I'll Uber the rest of it. It's still cheaper than staying.
Well, there's that. Yeah, you can Uber. Yeah, that doesn't really fight. Heck, I don't. I get there, and if I get outside the hotel, I figure I'm doing good. I mean, I literally did not get outside the hotel until the day before I left last year, and I was there all week because I go in on Monday for the conference setup, and then I don't leave till the following Monday, so I'm there for 8 days. And yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's...
Bob says he's bringing bail money.
Bob says he's bringing bail money.
Nice.
I said seaweed, and everybody's going, seaweed, Bob? On the feed. Really? It's hilarious how you can see mead makers' ears prick up when somebody comes up with, mentions something that hasn't been done by everybody already, and
right.
Just to see them do something different. There was, years and years and years ago, and at the time, nobody was doing this. There was a mead maker in Virginia, in Western Virginia, and he made a spruce tip methclin, and it was at the time nobody was going there because it's a tricky thing to work with spruce tips. You've got the volatile oils, and it's real easy to go too far, and then it's ruined, and and all of that. But this guy, he did it, and it was sublime. It was just perfectly done. And the really hilarious thing is he was just this old hippie pothead guy from the '60s, and he was so much fun to hang out with. I would go up there, and he'd be like, "Vicky," and he'd drag me into the place and start pouring mead. It's like, cool, I like this, but. He also made a honeysuckle mead, and he literally would ferment the honeysuckle flowers. And the trick here is honeysuckle flowers wilt if you look at them. I mean, the moment you touch those puppies, they begin to wilt. There is no wiggle room there. And so you basically have to get them straight into the mead the moment they're picked. And and then you have to watch it like a hawk because they go off really easily. So it's a really finicky mead to make, and I had 3 bottles of that before he ended up closing his doors because he was a good mead maker but not a great businessman. And I I had like 3 bottles of that stuff, and people would wait in line for this mead. It was so interesting.
Wow.
Yeah. It was just, and it was a short-run mead because they're just, how many honeysuckle flowers can any one person pick? I mean, really.
Yeah, well, as long as they're still going and
right. Yeah, they're very ephemeral. So and I even tried picking my own honeysuckle flowers. I tried freezing them, thinking that might work. Yeah, it doesn't work.
It worked for apple. I had that work for apple blossoms.
Yes, but it won't work for honeysuckle. They go weird.
Yeah, I can imagine they would.
Yeah, I don't know why they go weird, but they do. So yeah, that was different. So what's the weirdest grape juice you've worked with, David?
I really haven't gone weird as far as grape juice goes. I mean, I suppose Concord was probably the weirdest thing, and people used to do that all the time.
Yeah, my dad made a lot of Concord grape wine when I was growing up.
It tastes like grape jelly.
Yep, it does.
I mean, if you dilute it, it's not
jelly,
bad.
It's great.
I find if you dilute it, it's not bad. But if you made it straight at wine strength, it would be like grape jelly.
It is, yeah. My dad used to make a lot of it. We had a Concord grape arbor, and that stuff was, even as a kid, I didn't care for it much. Church wine was better, and that's saying something.
Yeah.
Church wine? Oh, no.
Yeah.
I did blend it with acai juice, and that actually worked really, really nicely. But man, that was a really, really long time ago. I think that was my 3rd batch of mead that I ever made. It was Concord grapes and acai juice.
That's an interesting mix. That's a really interesting. All right, so as long as we're on this track, what are some of the interesting blends that you've done that bring in the Pyment aspect?
Most of the kits are not available in a blend. I mean, you can just get, the red grape blend stuff.
I was just wondering
like
if maybe you took
purees.
Different stuff and mixed it together,
I've played around with it a little bit, but I really like to showcase that one particular grape. I mean, it's almost like doing a traditional mead, where you want to showcase that one specific honey. And like when I make my Nebbiolo, I really want to showcase the Nebbiolo grape because I find it just a fascinating grape. It just has incredible depth to the flavor, and the more you taste it, the more things that you pick out. And so I did play around with blending that a little bit with a Malbec, and I blended it with a Cab Sauv, and wasn't really impressed with either one of them. It just kind of muddied up the flavors a little bit. It wasn't like a specific grape at that point.
Oh, that's kind of a bummer. I've never played with the Nebbiolo. So that's not a grape I'm real familiar with, and I know my wine snob friends are just shaking their heads at what a noob I am when it comes to wines that aren't like mainstream. I never got. I mean, right. I like wine, but it's not my favorite thing to drink, so I really don't drink that much of it.
Yeah. Well, and I didn't get into drinking wine until I started making Pyments.
Really?
And I started making it because I didn't like anything that was dry. I'm like, ugh, wine? Ugh,
I still don't care for a lot of dry wines. I have to, in my humble opinion, and I am by no stretch of the imagination any kind of a wine expert, but just because I feel like I do have some experience in knowing what is in balance and out of balance, and that applies across the board, regardless. I feel like that 60 to 80% of the wines that you find on your standard shelf in, like a regular sort of shop, whether that's a grocery store or a regular type of wine shop, not the highfalutin places, but just like the regular places where normal people go, that the vast majority, Not that we're normal, really, but I mean, we're people who don't have a buttload of money to spend on wine. Go, 60 to 80% of those wines are kind of crappy. I mean, they're poorly put together. They're out of balance. They're too acidic or too sweet, or they have a poor finish, or there's off notes, or they're not shelf stable, or something. There's always,
Exactly.
I've gotten so I don't want